I just got done watching Black Adam, and this is hands down a misunderstood, epic comic book movie that so many of you are going to completely enjoy, and I am absolutely shocked by that Rotten Tomatoes score. Now, is the movie perfect? By means, not at all. I have issues, but god damn, The Rock has been saying this for a long time, that this is going to usher in a new era of the DC universe. And I think a lot of us look at that and hear that and go, The Rock? Dwayne, come on. Are you just talking about yourself as Black Adam? And in some way, shape, and forms, yes. Black Adam is established as a menacing, unstoppable powerhouse in this movie. And we're going to talk about that. But what this movie does to establish and further out the DC universe is a lot of what Marvel did in Phase 1 in a lot of their different movies. And that's why I'm kind of shocked that a lot of critics were so high on those, but not on this. And I'm not saying that DC is completely copying the Marvel universe whatsoever. This is definitely in their own vein of setting up stuff, but it's setting up in a very action-packed, visceral way that I'm so excited to talk about, because Black Adam is the definition of badass, hype, intense, and absolutely just kinetic, fast-paced filmmaking. And that is why Black Adam is absolutely going to be a misunderstood epic. And I think a lot of people are going to look back at this movie like they do with Man of Steel, because look at Man of Steel, it has a Rotten Tomatoes score that's way lower than it should be, and maybe that's just me. I love that movie. But goddamn, I got a lot to talk about with Black Adam. So of course, before we get any further into this review, the most important about all of this stuff is hearing your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. So leave your thoughts, as well as hit that like and subscribe button for all sorts of fun, geeky content over here on a daily basis. I have an awesome DCU updated ranking coming out later this week, I think Friday, as this video is going up, so make sure to look forward to that. But with that established, let's dive into my pros on Black Adam and why, again, I think this is a very misunderstood movie. And a lot of that goes down to, I want to get the characters out of the way. I'm not going to talk about all of them, because I do think there's some issues with certain ones in here. But Dwayne Johnson, he was casted as Black Adam what feels like an eternity ago. Like, he was casted before pretty much the DC universe was even a thing. Truthfully, never even thought that this would actually come to be. I thought eventually we would just get another actor in this role and The Rock would move on to something else. Thankfully, he did establish this, brings the character to life. But at the same time, Dwayne Johnson, for me, plays a lot of the same exact character. And I love those. I love how charismatic he is. I love how fun he is. And I think almost every movie this guy makes is entertaining by no means. Not perfect, but at least very entertaining. And he makes those roles entertaining. So I was a little bit worried that Black Adam's going to falter into that a little bit and be like, okay, it's the same role that Dwayne Johnson does. Thankfully, I'm actually very surprised and also delightfully surprised the fact that Dwayne Johnson really does become Black Adam. This is the role that he was born to play. You can argue any other role that he's been playing before that he was born to play that, but this is definitively the role he has become. Like, he, in every sort of way, embodies Black Adam that I read in the comics, that I've played in the video games, that I've seen in any sort of animated function. This is like a definitive version of Black Adam, and I was very happy with that. Now, a lot of that can be said because of the action and some of the writing, but Dwayne Johnson really embodies the character. And the other thing I actually really liked is, he's getting up there in age. He's a big, bulky dude. I mean, he's arguably probably one of the biggest actors out there when it comes down to muscle definition and everything like that. So he does look the part. But I also really like that a lot of actors nowadays will hide their wrinkles, will hide their scars, will hide their age. And with Black Adam as a role, that is something that you could have easily done here. But he never shies away from that. And in fact, the film doesn't shy away from that. It does dive into the fact that Black Adam has seen a lot of terrible things in his life and have endured a lot of terrible things. And I do like that they do show the distress, the age on this character. And it's such a small attention to detail that I really like that they dove into this character. In general, Dwayne Johnson's performance really elevates that. And honestly, I could even argue probably one of his better performances that he's ever done. Adding in there, of course, he's not the only star of this movie. Aldous Hodge, ever since this guy was announced to play Hawkman, I got hyped. I've loved this guy as an actor. One Night in Miami, he was a show stealer in there, and even in The Invisible Man, I loved him. But Hawkman, truthfully, This is the character that we've been waiting to see in live action, and I think Aldous Hodge does a really great job in here. And shout out must be made to the costume designers, because all the costumes, like, look stunning, whether it's Cyclone, Atom Smasher, Black Adam himself, but specifically Hawkman and Dr. Fate, which we're going to talk a little bit more about Dr. Fate in a second, but Hawkman's mask is a big embodiment of him. And while the armor, the wings, the weapons he used are fantastic, that helmet is a big piece of him. And the way that Aldous Hodge was able to express so much emotions within his eyes, his facial expressions, inside just that mask, you can feel and understand everything he's giving, and really much his passion towards being a hero. And it makes me very excited to see what else we see in the future with Aldous Hodge as this character, and leading in there as well, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. Now, Dr. Fate is one of my favorite DC Universe characters. I honestly never thought we would get him in live action, at least this soon. I thought it would have been way down in the line. But the way that Pierce Brosnan plays the charming, suave character that has this mysterious undertone to him very much is reminiscent of a lot of different elements, and Pierce Brosnan brings it. I love the suit. I was a little bit hesitant on the mask. The mask was very comic accurate, but I wanted the eye holes. But the way that they actually use some of the magic effects in here really work. And what you've seen in the trailer of these two characters, there's a ton more. And I think that's where it goes as far to say, what the trailer sells you on is a badass epic time. And that's exactly what this movie is. It's action-packed, it's so much fun, and it's just an action-packed movie. Is the story deep? No. I think there's some cool moments to it that adds to the mythology, which I'm about to talk about, but the action itself is so awesome. I just could not get the grin off my face. Every single second that you see Black Adam moving through here, completely evaporating everyone in sight. It really made me scream fatality from Mortal Kombat.
Fatality.
The director, Colette Sierra, is a lot of that things to do. He knows how to give like a lot of fast-paced action in here, and this is definitely one of the strongest pieces of that. There's the slow-mo, there's all those sorts of actions, and in some ways it kind of reminds me in reminiscence of the way that Zack Snyder shot the action in 300, but you see every little punch, pull, fatality, brutality, whatever you want to say it, when the characters are going at one another, it's just visioned. And I loved it. I was so into it. And I've always said this, that I think the DC Universe has some of the best action that we've ever seen in comic book movies in general. And I was happy to see that Black Adam continued that trend, because from watching the trailers, I'm like, this looks badass, but I need to see all these action scenes actually fleshed out and not just chopped up and cut up. And thankfully, every single one of them, it's either the enemy dies in one hit, or you just see Black Adam going around. And when he's dealing out decks to the heroes, and especially one of the villains of the story, you're just sitting there in absolute awe, having a blast of a time. I also forgot to mention Quintessa Swindell, who plays Cyclone in here. They didn't give a lot of character development to her, but man, did I love the outfit, the costume design, and again, just her infectious charm was very well done in there. Real fast, I'm editing the video currently and re-listening back. I totally forgot to mention Lauren Balfe's score. It is incredible and probably one of my favorites in the DC universe. One of the other things that I think really makes this movie misunderstood isn't just those performances and all the action that I talked about, because you obviously know you're going to get those. You know you're probably going to get really good embodiments of these characters and awesome action scenes. The thing I was truly surprised by, and one of my favorite characters in comic book lore, is Shazam. And Black Adam has a very special history when it comes down to the mythology of the word Shazam. And they add to the word Shazam and the mythology of all that in such a special and grand way that's going to make you look at, when you go back and watch Shazam now, in a different light. And specifically when Shazam 2 comes out, we're going to get a new light of that. Now, again, this is a non-spoiler review. I'm not saying that Zachary Levi shows up in here, but if you've watched Shazam, you obviously know some of the references in there to Black Adam, and they touch on those and again add so much. And I think that's why Dwayne Johnson also said that this is ushering in a new era of the DC universe, because this is the first start. This is like the start of their phase 1. And for me, what it's doing is it's bridging the gap from what happened before in some movies that maybe weren't for everyone, but bridging it so some of that can come over, adding mythology to all of that epicness that was always already given, all the greatness of the DC universe. They're bringing it over here. They're leaving behind some of the baggage, and they're continuing that story while establishing not just one new character, but multiple new characters. Atom Smasher, Hawkman, Dr. Fate, Cyclone. And again, adding more mythology to the word Shazam. Adding more mythology to everything in here that builds up that film, the DC Universe, and Black Adam even more. And I was thoroughly impressed by that. I didn't expect to see that. As a comic book fan, I was, again, not expecting all of that. And we'll talk about character development in here, but the fact that you were able to establish all those characters in such a short amount of time, within 2 hours, and make me go, I'm interested. I want to see more of this. Because the little details they do with Dr. Fate, there is so much you could go and explore now with that character. Aldous Hodge's Hawkman, there's a lot of background that you can go and explore with that character. Atom Smasher and Cyclone, not too much there, but again, we'll talk about that. I keep dancing around that, but the misunderstood aspect of how this is building up it, but not in the way that, say, Iron Man 2 did, which was very cliche, way too over heavy. In fact, the way that this movie actually does feel built up is it's kind of like if you took the first Avengers movie, they did a lot of world building in there. And they took everything that needed to be, but at the same time of what James Gunn did with Guardians of the Galaxy, with establishing the whole space opera theme of the Marvel Universe, the DC Universe is now establishing a lot of different elements, and I couldn't get enough of it. While I still remain baffled by that Rotten Tomatoes score, I definitely think this movie should absolutely be higher. And I've seen some people even say this is as bad as Morbius, if not worse, which I think is insane. Did you actually watch Morbius? Because if you did, I think you slept through it. I do want to get my issues out of the way because I think there were some things in this movie that could have been done a little bit better. First off, I think the film should have been longer. It has a very fast pace to it, and not in a bad way. I don't think the pacing of this movie is bad by any means. I think the action jumps you in and it goes from action scene to action scene, and sometimes it even feels like a live-action Dragon Ball movie, which, that's like everything I could ever want. With Dragon Ball, sometimes the story is not all there. Sometimes it's a lot of action, and sometimes that action is very heavy-handed. Now, like I said, I think this movie should have been a little bit longer. I think you could have made this movie at least 20 more minutes longer to establish and give a little bit more development to the JSA itself. Now, I think it's a cool introduction. I'm excited to see what else they could possibly do with there. Again, they do a lot of cool tidbits with certain characters in there. But like I mentioned with Atom Smasher and Cyclone, they get like zero character development. You get lines of dialogue that just are there to tell you who they are, what they are, and what their powers are, and how they got them. And that's very cringeworthy. That's very early 2000s comic book movie, and I think those could have been written better, and I think that's where the development and some of the pacing needed to take the time to slow down just a hair. As well as Noah Ciento. I can never pronounce his name right. I know I can't, but I also am... I don't really care for the character of Atom Smasher personally, and also none of his performances have really like gone, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. I don't think he's bad in this movie. I think he's enjoyable for what the material was given to him, but it kind of reminded me of a knockoff of Deadpool, and I wasn't completely satisfied from that, specifically because I'm a major Deadpool fan, and if they were going to copy anything, that is not the one thing they should copy, because for me, it didn't really work out. And while I like the costume, the mask even very much fits Deadpool, but it's even the tone that they kind of established him within there, and I get it, they're trying to make him be like the funny one of the group, but I never really laughed at any of his lines personally. I think that's where it just goes as far to say is that the film does have scripting issues. The film has a lot of issues like that. Again, I think it does need a little bit more time to marinate and establish. The story is not the best thing. In fact, there's this whole human element to it of the people of this entire country that Black Adam is from. And it's not great. To be honest, sometimes it does drag the pacing at those moments, and I like what they were trying to do thematically. I think it works for the character. I just wish they would have established it in a little bit of a better light. It does take a second to finally get moving with this film. The first 20 minutes is a little bit too slow for me, but once it kicks off, once Black Adam awakens, it is just firing on all cylinders from there. I think that's where a lot of people are going to look at this movie, and if you come for the story and you want a grandiose, awesome DC story, you're not going to get that. There's great mythology world building in here, so if you want that, you're going to get that in here, but there's not a ton of story. As well as the villain, I never thought I would say this, but it's probably one of the worst villains in the DC universe. Not on power scale level. Like, they needed this villain so you could see Black Adam go after him. but overall it was just written in a very bad way. And I guess that's where maybe I can see some of the Rotten Tomatoes score, but at the same time, like, I've seen weaker villains in the MCU, or just as bad, and I've seen weaker villains in certain films that do get good scores, so I don't know, maybe I'm just still baffled by that all. Black Adam is hands down a misunderstood epic kickoff to the next era of the DC universe. It's visceral, it's intense, I love the action, and it creates such a kinetic time that I loved. The Rock completely becomes Black Adam in here, and added so much of the mythology to just the word Shazam. And I'm going to talk about something at the very end of this review, and I'm sure a lot of you guys are wondering about it, so I will talk about that. But Aldous Hodge is incredible in here. Dr. Fate himself, Pierce Brosnan, becomes that character. I want more of the JSA. I want more Black Adam. I want more from the DC universe. And I've always said I'm always worried when I see a DC movie that I love, because I never know what's actually going to come next. I don't know if they're going to be reactionary, and I know they have new leadership there, so hopefully it is not. I want more. I can't wait for more. With all that said, I'm going to give Black Adam a B+. Before you get going, I am going to talk about the post-credit scene, so please understand, if you don't want to know what it is, and you don't know what it is yet, because it's all over the damn internet, please click away right now, come back, and once you come back, we can talk a little bit more about Black Adam. So, end credit scene. 1, 2, 3. Oh my god, he's back. I can't believe Henry Cavill's back. Oh my god, I cried. I cried at that post-credit scene. As someone who thinks Man of Steel is personally one of the best comic book movies of all time, and someone who just wants one of the perfect visions of Superman, it was great to see this. Now, I've never believed that Superman and Black Adam should go at it with one another, but the respect that Dwayne Johnson has really put on the Superman name within all of his interviews makes me so happy. And to see Henry Cavill step out of the light was just, honestly, like, it made me cry, because it's what I've wanted. And like I mentioned, it bridges that gap from everything from the original DCU and continues that into this new era. And if it's, if we truly get a Man of Steel 2, it'll mean a lot. And even though I had heard, and pretty much it's just been spoiled all over the internet, just seeing him made my entire life. So I love that. And even taking away that, even if he wasn't in here, I would still stand by this movie with everything that I've said. But I definitely want to hear your guys' thoughts. So thank you so much again for watching this. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and comment down below your guys' thoughts. And of course, until next time, stay classy.